When North Americans think of Brazil, we think of soccer and World Cup championships. We think of sensual music like samba or bossa nova. Or we think of the sun-kissed beaches like Ipanema. Our guest in the studio today will give you a different sensual pleasure to associate with her homeland, something warm and delicious to pop into your mouth. Feel Like You Belong is happy to welcome Silvana Quadros Russell, founder of Brazilian Oven in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Silvana, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
So tell me, it's a long way from Brazil to the snowy north of Michigan in the United States. Why did you come to this far north?
Well, it was love.
What a great reason.
I met my husband in Brazil. He worked there for 3 years. And the funny thing is, everybody thought we worked together, but we met at the English school. He was studying Portuguese at the same school that where I studied English. And actually, when we met, was kind of hard because my English was very little. So I would say, my name is Silvana. And his Portuguese was not that great either. El Ser John. So that's how we met. We start to take classes together or go out after classes and talk more. He wants to know more about my culture, and I want to know more about his culture. And after a couple of months, we realized we were dating. After the 3 years passed by and his contract was over, he came back to United States, and a little after, I came too. So that's how it all started.
So, and you've been in the country now how long?
For 20 years.
Okay, okay. And you have children in...
Oh, we have two. I have a daughter, which is 21 years old, and I have Lucas, my son, who is 16 years old.
And what's your daughter's name?
Oh, Kristen.
Kristen, okay. Yeah. She'll want you to say that.
Oh, yes. You're going to be mad. Hey, you're saying Lucas and you're not saying Kristen. What is that about?
Exactly, exactly. So, in the process of moving here and living here, after a while, let me back up. You are really good at cooking. And in Kalamazoo, there are some cooking contests which you have entered and won. Tell us about that.
Yes, that's something that my friends back in Brazil, they're all surprised about this, because in Brazil, I did not cook, I didn't do much, and I have no culinary background, training. But when I moved here, I had something in my hand, I had time. And so I started to try different recipes. And actually, I want to practice my English. One way that I would practice, I would call all those 1-800 numbers in the packaging. I would call them and say, hey, I use your flour. This is a great flour. And they are really happy about it. Can you send me some recipes? And they did. They would send me. Suddenly, I was getting my mails and my husband, because I would call all these companies that I could flour, oil, milk, and I would make good deal out of their products and ask for recipes, and I would get them. So I started to work more in the kitchen and get better and better. Start to call my mom and my friends in Brazil and say, hey, if you guys had some recipes, send to me, because I need to cook. Here in the United States, you cannot afford to have someone cooking for you. You need to do it on your own.
In Brazil, a lot of people have their own cooks, their own maids.
Maids, exactly.
It's a little more expensive in this country.
Exactly. So I learned when you get here, you don't have that. So you're on your own. So what I did, I started to do more and more, and then I started to get all these recipes actually from Brazil, and I started to try. And suddenly I saw at the Kalamazoo Gazette, they have this cooking contest. And somebody told me, if you send a recipe from your country, I think they would be more interesting for them. So I had a recipe for orange cake. It's kind of a little bizarre. You put the whole orange in a blender, you put everything, the flour, the oil, boom, voila, the cake is done. I said, I want to send this recipe. I sent, and they called me. You are a finalist. That was the first year in 1997. After this, I get excited about it, because when you do this, you go there, you present your dish, and then the judges come, they try, and they see who is the winner. That is the people's choice. After the contest, everybody that participates come and try every food as well, so you can vote what you think is the best.
So it's Kalamazoo, Michigan, meet Brazil.
Meet Brazil. Oh, after this, I did this 10 years in a row. So for 10 years, I send my recipes. I always a Brazilian recipe. What I would do is, if there was an ingredient that in a recipe that I could not find, I tried to substitute for something else, and voila, the recipe was done. Twice I won a big prize. So with my recipes, I have
the number one winner.
Yes,
Okay.
I get a shrimp with coconut sauce that you probably know this recipe, very good. We call
Lovely.
moqueca de camarão in Brazil.
Oh, I've had that.
And I also won with the Brazilian pudding, which is a flan. So those two recipes was a winner. And the good thing that I always could, be around all those people, that some of them had some culinary training, some of them they're just enthusiastic like me, they just like to be there preparing stuff in the kitchen. So a lot of connection, a lot of networking. And I think this background, those years doing this, gave me the idea I can do this, gave me confidence. I think I can do that. And that's how I start my business with the cheese bread.
And Silvana, the roots of Brazilian oven really come from your father's mandioca garden. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, we grew up eating mandioca much more than potato, of course. We had this available in our garden, and that's something really dear to me. And everything that you can imagine, every dish that you can imagine, made out of the yuca, cassava, or mandioca, we had in our plates. And so this is very dear to me because we used to follow my dad to the garden, and he used to study a few shrubs, mandioca shrubs, and it seemed like he knew which one that was just right. And this is a memory that I brought with me. And when he would grasp that stem and pull the mandioca out, if you could count 5, 6, that was perfect. His choice was very wise, and he always did. So this is kind of for us something that we did at least 3 times a week, to have for part of our plates, for our diet.
For people who don't know this food, what's the difference between mandioca and tapioca?
Mandioca is the root. Mandioca and tapioca is the flour that comes from the root. We use both. We use just the root. If you see the root, you peel it. It has a little bark, a brown bark, which comes very easily when you peel it. And then you can do anything. To make the flour, you don't boil it. You just they ground it and dry it. And now for us to eat, like as a potato, we boil, we fry it, we make casseroles, we make cakes out of it. Possibilities are endless.
Yeah. You were baking pão de queijo, you were baking this very specific Brazilian cheese bread, and your friend said, hey, could you make a couple of dozen of those for our parties?
Yeah, well, actually the cheese bread, what happened when I moved here, I didn't even know there was tapioca around here. So every year when I go visit my family in Brazil, I would bring supply enough for 1 year of the dry mix.
Bags and bags.
Bags and bags. More people, I think, at the customer, they already knew. She's coming again with her cheese bread. So I bring...
Except the flour is looking like a suspicious substance going through customs.
My packages are always open. They always check, but that's okay. I brought them home anyway. They made it. And so I made this cheese bread. I brought my packages. Until a friend, I met another Brazilian in Kalamazoo, and she told me, you don't need to bring this. You can make your own. There is tapioca here. You can make it by scratch, which is much better. So I went to the place that she told me. I found the tapioca flour. Voila, I can make this. So I started to make my own. So every time there was a get-together, my contribution, cheese bread. I would bring the cheese bread, pão de queijo. I would bring the Brazilian pão de queijo. At the time, used to call them cheese balls because I used to roll them by hand, so they're a little ball. So I take to these parties and people say, my gosh, this is delicious. And are you kidding me? This is gluten-free? I said, oh yes, naturally gluten-free.
Healthy without even trying.
Not even try. So, and then after this, some of the friends, they introduced me to their friends, and they used to say, hey, I have a party. Can you make 25 of the cheese balls for me? Sure. So I would go home, I'll make them, and deliver the cheese balls. And then another order, can you make 50? Sure. Until the day came an order for 100. My husband comes home, and here I am rolling those cheese balls. He goes, oh my gosh, what is this? And I got an order for 100. And that's when he told me, you better start to package this.
A business.
Yes, he said, you better start, because I mean, if all these people are calling for it, there is a demand for it. So we start to look for a commercial kitchen, because of course, if you're making this as a business,
To sell it to the public.
Exactly, I could not use my kitchen. So
Health requirements.
that's correct. So we start to look for, we found a commercial kitchen in Kalamazoo, but they do not have a walk-in freezer. And I knew to make that product, I need a walk-in freezer. So we talked to this person, and she said, look, in a year or so, we're gonna have our own kitchen, and our own kitchen, they're gonna have the walk-in freezer. So I said, please keep in touch, because that's what I need. So end of 2011, I got the call. They said, hey, our kitchen is running. You can come and try. So we went there, right? I think it was January 2012. We made our own small batch there. Everything worked out beautifully. So we are trying. One thing is when you're selling to your friends, you know, and another thing when you get the public out there. So I figured, let's get a very simple package. We start with it's called like a flat packaging. Was very hard to patch those cheese bread there. We need to kind of talk, please do it for me, come on, you know. I was still in the one that when they're coming from the machine, I'm saying I love you, I love you, I love you, because they're so special. And so we start to package, and we went to some supermarkets in Kalamazoo and some health stores, and they start to carry the product. 6 months later, the product was selling. I said, come on, we need to change this, because our package was very simple. There was no picture. The logo was there, Brazilian oven, but we need more. So I start to walk in the supermarkets, and I start to see all those stand-up pouches, beautiful. So I start to say, that's our next step now. So we went there, we got the stand-up pouches. We're still using labels. We got the labels with the picture to put in the product. And then meanwhile, we come up with another flavor, jalapeno. And then
which is not Brazilian.
Which is not Brazilian.
That's a Mexican-American alteration.
That was just for this market, because people start to ask me, how about a flavor? We need something spicy. So I said, okay, we do the jalapeno. And then I got the people coming to me, I don't like jalapeno. You know, I have allergy to jalapeno. Can you do another flavor? How about garlic? Yes. So we go ahead, and we did the garlic as well. So suddenly we have not only the flat, easy, simple package, we have a stand-up pouches, and we have 2 more flavors. And the product was moving, it was selling, I was happy with it, but you want more, you know, go big or go home. So I figure I want my product to be at Whole Foods. So I start to go in Ann Arbor and talk to the manager there and say, hey, this is a great product.
It's healthy, it's delicious.
Exactly, and he told me, look at this, I will try. He sent the product to his forager in Chicago, was approved. So the day that I got it there, I was very happy. It's like I made it.
It's a big deal to be in Whole Foods.
Oh yes, oh yes. A lot of people tell me, wow, this product is Whole Foods. This is amazing.
So I'd like to go back to when you first came to the United States, because that was a bit of an adjustment for you. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. You see, when I moved here, there was no cultural shock for me. I felt the way of life here in the United States was pretty much the same like in Brazil. You know, going to work, eating, dressing, table manners. There are a few things that, you know, caught me out of guard. For instance, for example, when I would go to the supermarket and had my cart, and people are going by me and say, excuse me, or pardon my reach. The first week I thought, that's odd, you know. And then I would go.
So what would happen in Brazil?
They just go through.
Just push through.
They just push through.
Reach across your face.
Oh yes, yes. This mannerism, it doesn't exist there. At least, I mean, I moved 20 years ago here, a little bit over 20 years here. So I cannot say now, and I don't want to generalize, but at least when I was there.
At least in the Midwest.
That's right. So, and I noticed, so I would go to the next aisle, the same thing could happen. So I thought it was something personal. I think, oh my gosh, I didn't even open my mouth. Is that because I'm a foreigner, they're doing this to me? And then I start to pay attention. You know, you learn by example. I start to pay attention. They're doing among them too. Excuse me, sure. Excuse me, of course. And then, well, later on, I'm doing the same thing. So I'm going with my cart at the supermarket and I'm saying, excuse me, pardon my reach. Now, the only problem is when I go back to Brazil, because now I do the same thing. I get there, I say, excuse me, and they look at me like, what she wants, you know, what's her...
In Portuguese?
É, com licença.
Com licença.
Com licença. And they're looking,
Que isso?
well, que isso? What's her problem? You know, and it gets worse because now when I go back and I get the card, my mother would say, no, you are not have the card because we take twice the time because you want to talk to everybody. I said, I'm not talking to everybody. And she goes, yeah, you keep saying com licença, you are trying to start a small talk. I said, no, that's not it. But that's how they see it.
So in what regards do you feel very American, and in what small ways do you still feel very Brazilian?
I still feel very Brazilian with our touching, we hug. You know, we are very close. You know, if I don't see someone for a while, we have those kisses that we do.
Sure.
And the hugs. And the way I feel very American is I think I'm more direct. The things that I need to do, the things that I want, I think I'm more direct now. You know, I don't keep going around and, hey, can you, it's like, let's do it now.
Okay.
You know, so more precise, I would say.
And your family back in Brazil, they make observations about how you've changed a little bit?
Yes, yes. And sometimes they say, oh, you are a little bit gringa now, you know? So, but they know where I came from. My roots are right there. So when I'm back home, that's what we are. So
have your kids been to Brazil?
Oh yes, we try to go every year.
How's their Portuguese?
My daughter speaks some with a very strong accent. My son, he answers in English most of the time. He understands, but he will answer most of the time in English. But my daughter, she does really well.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, cool. So are there things that you still miss?
I think now, after, you know, I built my family here. I think now, being married and having my kids here, going to school here, I think I built...
And a growing business.
And growing business. I think I built my life here. But of course, I miss my family and friends. That's
Sure.
something that it always will be, you know, they're always going to be there. I know there's no chance they don't plan to come here except for a visit. So that's what I think I miss the most. Of course, the food, the music of Brazil. The soccer, I'm not a fanatic for soccer, but when there is World Cup, I'm there.
Everyone's a fan.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah.
So, and there are, I would say there are a few things that I do miss from Brazil, but I would say I'm content what I have here now.
Awesome, awesome.
I think
So-
I feel like I belong.
So for Brazilians looking to move to the United States, do you have any advice for them?
Well, I would say try to live here. Don't try to live there. Because there are things, as we mentioned earlier, there are things that you cannot have here. You don't have a full-time maid. You're not going to have a gardener. You're not going to have a cook, you know, and you're not going to go in the bakery every morning, afternoon, and evening and get fresh bread like you use in Brazil. But try to adapt and try to live here the way you live here.
Awesome. Well, we're going to have to leave it there, but thanks again so much for coming by.
Okay, thank you so much for having me over.
You're welcome.